the DCEU finally figured out what was wrong with their film franchise. And no, it's not what you might think. No, they figured out the root cause of the franchise not working. It's the E in the DCEU. So it's no longer the DCEU, it's the DCU. You know, like Marvel, the MCU, and now it's the DCU. And we all know how well it has gone in the past when the DCEU has followed and mimicked the MCU. So now that they have mimicked their title and their name and their whole acronym-y thingy, it's smooth sailing from here. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be smooth sailing from here. Even though James Gunn excites and wonders me, and I can't believe they made a good decision, and he's in charge now, smooth sailing is what I'm saying. Nothing to the contrary of that. And so in honor and in mourning of the DCEU, I thought there was no better time than to rank all the DCEU films from worst to least worst. That first bit, just a little gag. I do like some of them. I actually like a lot of them. I like some of them. Number 12, Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is easily the worst DCEU film. It is easily the worst DC-related film. It could be just the worst film ever. I mean, I've seen some pretty bad films in my time, but Suicide Squad is a special bad because the idea of the Suicide Squad is amazing. You have a motley crew of colourful villains and they're all different, but they're forced to do good, and you see who's really bad and who's not so bad, and then when they don't do what they're told, their heads explode. It can't be a bad film. How can that be a bad, bland, unimaginative film? I'm not asking for Citizen Kane, a film I have not seen. I mean, number one, wasting everybody's favourite Joker and favourite actor, Jared Leto, is a cinematic crime on its own. But then when you couple it with all the other cinematic crimes that this film does, it becomes an abomination of cinema. It disgusts, infuriates, and angers me how bad this film is. There was a moment in my life, maybe a couple of years ago, where I actually appreciated and enjoyed how bad it was, and I could kind of enjoy it on that kind of level of being like, so bad it's good, but I've doubled back around and now it's just so bad, it's bad. The one positive of this film is the soundtrack. This film has a spectacular soundtrack. Every single song on this soundtrack is amazing. All together in one big cohesive film in which there is no rhyme or reason or just sense in putting them where they are, and they're all just there because you like this song, don't you? And you're like, I do like that song. And they're like, well, and they're like grabbing the song and they're trying to chuck it down your throat. And you're like, get the song out of my mouth. It's not fitting with the... So all the songs, as good as they are on their own, they don't gel and mix together in this cohesive nugget of a film, much like, say, a James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy. Ironically, the man who will come and fix Suicide Squad just by putting the in front of it. The anti-Facebook. The only way I can describe the soundtrack and how much I love it, but like simultaneously hate it, is like, imagine there's a chef. You've gone to this beautiful restaurant, this big 5-star restaurant, a Michelin restaurant, whatever that means. I've seen MasterChef, but I don't think I know what that word means. So you've gone to this really expensive restaurant, you've brought your girl, or your boy, or your dog. I mean, it doesn't really matter who's there with you. You're there. That's the most important part. Listener, viewer, sir, good madam, what, dog, good boy, whoever's listening, you've brought your significant other, and you're there at the restaurant, and you're like, oh, we're gonna have a big old time with some fantastic dishes, because I've heard that Chef... let's pick a name out of random. Let's call him David Ayer. Chef Ayer. So Chef Ayer, he's like, hey, this is my restaurant and you're gonna eat the most delicious meals ever. Name your 5 most favorite delicious meals. And you're like, oh, okay. I got a steak and a salads. I've got a fish and a chips. I've got a carbonara with extra bacon. And you list a couple more examples. There's not enough time for me to list all my favorite foods because I do... I love to eat. But he's got your 5 favorite foods all there together and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And he's like, are you ready to eat all these 5 meals tonight? But then you're like, oh, wait, no, I don't think I understood the assignment. I said my favorite meals. I've given you 5 mains. Maybe I'll want an entree and a dessert. So just give me like 2 mains, 3 mains? Don't give me 5 mains. That's not going to work. And he's like, don't worry. The way I make food, it's going to work. And so while skeptical, you're like, okay, I'll go with this. 5 mains, no entrees, no desserts. Can I get a drink? He's like, the drink will come with the mains. It will come all together. It's just hold on. But then it's one of those restaurants where you can actually see them making the food. There's like a manhole in like the kitchen to like restaurant area. And so you can actually see what's happening. And you see him grabbing your plate of delicious fish and chips. He's just pouring it into a big old blender. And then you see that delicious steak just perfectly cooked rare. The blood is just dripping all over it. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to eat that. It goes in the blender too. And you're like, so what's happening over there? But they don't respond because, you know, it's a Gordon Ramsay type atmosphere, so they just scream back at you, some obscenities, whatever. A couple of F-bombs are said, and you feel nervous, so you sit back down, and he's just chucking all the foods in. Bam, 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 bam. And then you have your 5 favorite foods of all time together with no sense or reason or rhyme, and why? And then he closes the lid on the blender, and you're like, Don't press that blender button. Don't press the go on that blender button, Chef Ayer. And then Chef Ayer's like, and he has disgustingly and insanely combined your 5 favorite things into one thing, and then he pours it into a big bowl, and he's like, drink it like a soup. Drink it like a soup. I don't know what Chef Ayer called the soup in the kitchen. Let's just call it, just for argument's sake, the Suicide Squad soundtrack. Let's just call it that. I don't know why. It's just the first thing that came to my mind. And then, he pours it into a big bowl, and then you drink it, and you're like, I know that is my favorite thing. I know you literally have my 5 favorite things there in the thing, but I hate it. I bloody hate it, mate. And to be honest, Chef Ayer, it could be the worst thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. Number 11, the Josstice League. The Josstice League is the worst possible version of the Justice League we could have ever possibly gotten. The only reason it's not the worst film this franchise has made is because they somehow made Suicide Squad, which is just so bad. At least in this film, you have Batfleck on screen, and I can at least look at Batfleck and be like, I like Batfleck. Does it look like he's maybe put on a little bit of weight and doesn't care anymore? Sure, but you know what? The amount of days I've gone into work and I've put on a bit of weight or a lot of weight and I don't care is every day. It's every day of work, so I can't really judge him for that. It's a day at the office for him, and it's just a blunder of a film. Every time you feel like there's a moment where you're like, that doesn't work. Now that we've seen like what the film originally would be, which I'll talk about later, Zack Snyder's version, it's kind of awkward and clumsy and disgusting to like behold. I think the best way to describe the entire film is to just imagine Joss Whedon, the king of the nerds, the god of the nerds, the man who made Buffy the Vampire Slayer, one of the best things that I'm terrified to ever revisit. And I just imagine him on the pedestal of the nerds. You've got all these little nerds with glasses, and he's just crawling above them all. He's pushing them all down. But then, he gets to the top, and he's up there, and he's all like, oh, I'm the big king of the nerds. I'm Buffy boy. I'm bloody Avengers and Avengers 2 boy. I'm the boy. And then everything about him came out, and then Justice League came out, and you're like, oh, how has a man ever fallen so hard down on the ground onto Gal Gadot's boobs, like that joke he put in the movie, because it's funny. To summarize, the film's not good. Okay, before it gets too negative, let's talk about some upsides. It's 2 hours long. It doesn't need to be longer. Cut all the bits that make it make sense. Number 2 of what works. Add bad jokes. A film that is good and dirty and gritty, change it, put bad jokes. I don't know. It's a bad movie. I try not to think about it. It's blacked out of my mind, especially since Zack Snyder's version came out, and I'm like, I can't even imagine what a film in 16:9 that features the Justice League would even look like. It's just it's a weird thing. What they're coming out on the sides of the screen. What are their arms really big or whatever? The Justice League to me, it has to be 4:3. That's the only way I can envision my favorite heroes on screen. As if it was the 90s. Number 10, Wonder Woman 1984. I love the bit where Mando was all like, I want to get a billion wishes or whatever, and he's grabbing a magical rock, and he's like, I wish I was the magical rock or whatever. And then there's a bunch of insane nonsense, and everyone's screaming wishes at him, and he's like, oh, if there's enough wishes in my body, I'm going to explode into some kind of wish demon genie thingy or something. I saw it a long time ago. I think I saw it at home during the pandemic and was like, I can watch this movie at home? That's crazy. Not that I downloaded it. I must have gotten an early screener because of my YouTube channel that I definitely had at that time. And I love this movie, but it's terrible. And every time I talk about it, I'm like, but what about this bit? And they're like, yeah, but that bit A, B, C, D. And they explain like 17 reasons. I tried to go through the alphabet, but I'm like, I'll get past D and I'll probably get the letters wrong. So I stopped at D. But like the 17 reasons why that scene is bad, and I go, oh, I don't have a response. And usually when like I love to debate a film and someone's like, what about this? And I'm like, oh, actually, what about this? And I come back at them, it's like you're back and forth and with the punches of the debate. But this film, there's a couple of films in my life where you just like, everyone gets those films where you just watch it and you love it. And like, because I loved watching this film, watching it like the first time, but then every time I talk to someone, they like say anything about the film, like any single minute detail of the film, and I just go, she gets her big, beautiful, wonderful angel, Wonder Woman, eagle wings, or she's got wings or whatever, and the cat lady's like, I'm a cat lady, get it? Because I presume she's just a cheater because she cheats. She doesn't cheat. Does she cheat? I don't know. But they have a big old CGI fight and she's got the wings and then she's like, I don't need those wings no more. I'm just use my fists or whatever. Or she uses another weapon like the sword she has or doesn't have in that scene. I've got to be clear. I did not watch any of these films to do this. I'm going off my memory. I was going to, and then I'm like, there's 12 of them. That's a lot, and I don't like a lot of them, and I don't want to rewatch them. I'd rather sit and do nothing. Number 9, Birds of Prey and the Number 9, The Birds of Prey, the Emancipation of Harley Quinn. Number 9, Birds of Prey, the Emancipation of... No, sorry. Number 9, The Birds of Prey, the Emancipation of... Number 9, Birds of Prey, the Emancipation... Number 9, lots of birds, they've got some prey and... Number 9, Birds of Prey, the Emancipation of Sir One Harley Quinn. Number 9, Harley Quinn, she's got a movie, and she's in it, and there's a bunch of ladies, and they're all like, we're the Birds of Prey, or whatever. You've seen the movie. It's Birds of Prey, but they called it something else or something, or they called it Birds of Prey, then they changed it, and they're like, actually, this movie's called Harley Quinn, and all her sexy babes. Look at them punch Ewan McGregor in the face. Number 1, Ewan McGregor's in this film. Love that guy. Every time he's in a movie, it's amazing. Mostly. Number 2, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's in this movie, and I love her more than life itself, and I just... Someone introduced me so we can get married. Not in a creepy weird way. I'll charm her and stuff. It's not like a sex slave thing. Why would I bring that up? She's so good. I have loved her ever since Final Destination 3. I remember her rocking up in like later things where she was like actually like a full on, like Hollywood actress, and I'm like, where's she from? Why do I love her immediately? And then when I was rewatching the Final Destinations one Halloween or just one lonely, depressed night, I was like, oh, she's Final Destination 3 lady. She's the girl from that. And she makes that film, she elevates that film above the others, even though maybe it's just a better film in general, but she elevates it because she's just got such a good persona. So, big points for Birds of Prey for casting her. Losing points because they don't utilize her properly. And Harley Quinn herself, the titular Bird of Prey, I think. I don't think I know what the Birds of Prey mean. Are the birds the women and the prey Ewan McGregor? She's in this film and she's good, and she's okay as Harley Quinn. I think she's like, she's good enough. She's much better in the Suicide Squad, the one with the good one. But I feel like once you see Harley Quinn, the TV series, with that chick from The Big Bang Theory, and she's not doing like the voice, and she's got like doing her own take, which is really original and like interesting. I don't know, like once I saw that show, I went, oh, Margot Robbie's like a brilliant, beautiful, amazing, fascinating, interesting, funny actor. I don't think her Harley Quinn is that inspired. It feels a bit like... Okay, so a little bit of a peek behind the curtain before I get to number 8. I think, like, the very worst and the very best are very clear cut. I know exactly where everyone lands. I'm very strong with those opinions of where they land for the DCEU. But 8 to 5, for me, super interchangeable. I feel like I could wake up one day and I could switch around all 4 of these films in any which way order. Number 8, Aquaman. I liked this film because it's got a bunch of fish boys in it, and they're all running about in the sea. I guess they're not running. I guess they're swimming about in the ocean, and we've got some amazing CGI things going on under the ocean, and it's unique and different and fun. On the negative, I feel like I don't remember this film properly. I feel like there's like fish characters and fish kings and like there's like crabs. Like, is there a crab, like a crab guy playing the drums at one point? Like, that's in my memory. I don't know if that's like in the film, but that's my memory of the film, is like a crab plays drums at one point and like a bunch of crabs and like dragon seahorses or something like attack each other, and maybe there's a kraken at the end, but maybe not. From my memory, which admittedly bad, every scene they're like having a two person talking scene where they're like one guy's talking to the other. You've seen a movie, two people can talk, and they're like, Aquaman, we've got to do a big old Aquaman-y thing, and he's like, oh, I just want to be grizzly and just so muscly, and I just want to drink a beer and be cool, and maybe later in the night I'll meet a certain fish and we'll talk. But then the scene before he can talk to the fish, it's like a big explosion and a wall explodes and the villains are all like, hey, we're here, we're the villains, we've interrupted this exposition scene / character dialogue scene, action, and you're like, oh, action. And the action is like cool, but nothing stands out. There's like a scene where they're running on the tops of buildings in Italy or something. I don't know. It's some kind of European town. And they're running across buildings and Black Banter's like, I've got Superman beams coming out of my eyeballs. And he's like, and that was awesome. That's a great, fantastic scene. I like legitimately love it. There's a bit where Mira's like, I take the water out of your skulls and you drown and die. And I'm like, that is horrific and kind of hot. I love her so much. Her completely, impossibly unauthentic red hair it does something for me. But my favorite scene in Aquaman is where they're in the desert and Aquaman's like, why are we in the desert, Mira, redheaded lady? And she's like, because I don't know, it's like a contrast to you being a little fish boy and you're just running about in fishland, the water. So we're in the desert. It's a fun little Indiana Jones set piece for half an act or whatever. And he's like, I don't like this. What if I get that itch and I feel that urge to like, meet a fish at a bar, but we're in the desert. I'm not gonna meet some kind of little sand crab thing. Like that's crazy. I'm into fish. And she just looks at him like, well, I actually thought because of my beautiful red hair and face, and I know the Johnny Depp stuff. Let's not get into the Johnny Depp stuff. I'm doing a bit. Let's forget about the Johnny Depp stuff, everybody. But she's all like, I just kind of thought maybe I could be that little fish girl for you. And he's like, that's crazy, Mira. You're a human woman. That's disgusting to me. I'm Aquaman. I'm into fish. Number 7, Shazam. I love the bit where the little boy's like, Shazam! I don't know. This movie's fun. It's silly. The casting's all good all around. It's fun to see little kids run about and then one of them's like, ooh, I got big muscles. Let me drink some beer. Oh, I don't like beer. But the reason it's not higher on the list is I think it does a couple of things that like just really, really infuriate me. Like, for one, no action scene in my mind like stands out. Like, where I'm like, oh, remember that moment in Shazam. And, it doesn't matter if the film is mostly kind of like fun and goofy and silly. Like, it nails all of those bits, all the characterization of the characters and like the emotional beats. That all works. But it's a superhero film. And unless you intentionally make it not an action film, which this doesn't do, it has action. If the action is bad and unmemorable, I'm left with unmemorable moments. And I want to be able to revisit those moments as well as the emotional beats. So that's a big negative. And also for me, villains being underutilized when they are such great ideas really frustrates me. And Shazam has such a great villain in like the 7 Deadly Sins. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like year 7 or 8, like we had these posters in our English teacher's room of the 7 Deadly Sins. And they were all like these really like beautiful men and women and these really like kind of exotic, beautiful kind of things, but they all had a different color and there was something just like a little bit off about them. And it was the idea that these 7 Deadly Sins can be like very glamorous and beautiful in their own way, but there's like a twist and a turn and a darkness to them. And they're so evocative and interesting images. They stay in my mind, but the thing that really stays in my mind about them is the color. Each sin has like a very distinct color that you can pick. Like, let's just go say the most obvious, like lust pink, wrath red, like, you know, envy green. And like, just to name a few. And like, I just feel like then you make all your 7 deadly sins, these big grotesque monsters, and they're all just like browny, grey, blacky, nothing, whatever. Like greyish nothings. Greyish nothings is how they are remembered to me. And it makes every single moment, every single scene they're in, underwhelming, disappointing, and infuriatingly frustrating at the lack of inspiration and ambition. And yeah, it actually really, really annoys me. And so I hate the villain because of that, even though actor name I can't remember. The bald guy that's great and everything. He does that song. He's like, take me home, country road, from that movie. It's what's that movie called? Kingsman 2. But then the film ends with Headless Superman, and we get a cut-off Superman. And I remember thinking I was so excited because like there are so many little bits here and there like throughout the film where it's like it's set in the DCEU, but like we're not seeing anybody. We don't need to see anybody, but they're all aware of these characters. And then to have Superman rock up to his school, I'm like, this is so cool. Henry Cavill is here. Oh, it's not. It's just some guy in a Superman costume, and you've cut his head off because you haven't got him back. You haven't confirmed he's come back. It actually makes me so angry and disappointed and infuriated and annoyed. So yeah, for that, I mean, honestly, what? It's at number 7. It should be like number 12 because that just makes me so angry and so annoyed. Obviously not number 12. 12 is Suicide Squad. That's a given. Number 6, Wonder Woman. This film, it's pretty good. It's okay. I like it. It's a film that has moments that are really, really great. And it has moments where I'm like, sure, okay, big CGI villain at the end that I have no emotional connection to. And there's fire and smoke and surrounding mist and darkness around him. And I'm like, I've seen this before, but it's a thing, and she punches him in the head or whatever. So the third act's real bad. But you know what? When you look at the whole DCEU, third act's pretty bad. Like they love the Ares-esque kind of villain at the end that kind of ruins the whole film. But there are aspects of the first 2 acts that I don't think work like fully. They don't fully realize. There's like a fish out of water element that I think works really, really well. Gal Gadot is surprisingly great. Like I'm not trying to throw shade. I think she's a great actress. I think sometimes she does a great performance, like in this movie, and sometimes she does like a not so great performance, like in the Fast and Furious, where I'm like I know they're different types of films, but her performance in that doesn't make me go, oh yes, she's a Wonder Woman. So the fact that she's such a great Wonder Woman, it's kind of amazing and awesome. She's like really like fun and charismatic and charming. And there's a bit of kind of like frustration with her fish out of water and like not understanding. Which is like, I can solve this war by just punching one man in the face very, very hard. And all of war is over and humanity, they'll be saved. Because men and just humanity itself isn't bad. It's this one demon boy, the Ares boy. And like her realization she's wrong there is like really interesting and like, I don't know, it's like a thought-provoking moment towards the end. Like, there's some really great stuff there. But, I don't know, overall, the film isn't something that I want to kind of keep going back to here and there. There are some really, really great little moments here and there. But overall, I'm left with a big sense of, it's a pretty okay superhero film. And at this time, it was the first female superhero, like, lead film. And just that alone, awesome. Like, way too late, obviously, but it's really, really great that that happened and that it did well. And it's great that it wasn't awful. It wasn't a Catwoman. It wasn't an Elektra. It wasn't a film that made all the producers that don't really understand and always take the wrong, like, kind of messages from things and go, oh, lady lead, oh, movie did bad, oh, it wasn't because of writing and A, B, C, D, E, G, you know, the 17 alphabet letters that I can't remember off the top of my head. So no, lady is no good as lead. It's like, no. She's fantastic as the lead. So much so, I enjoyed Wonder Woman 1984. But as I said previously, I pretend I don't because I want you all to respect my opinion. Number 5, Black Adam. The Rock is in this movie, and I love The Rock. And I love that The Rock is all like, I'm doing my smoldering face look thing. Imagine my face, but The Rock doing whatever he does, where he's like, I can't do it because I'm not a smoldering 7-foot rock or whatever. I love that he's just like, I've got electric powers, and every time he just touches the person, they just die of extreme electric power. He kills so many people. I just love this movie. I love the twists and the turns of the origins of the Shazam Black Adam situation. It's all like, it was my son, this was the original Shazam. But then twists, turns, and things happen, and it's all a bit of fun. I really like the idea of the Justice Society being painted as villains for the first 2 acts, and they're all like, I'm a Hawkman, look at my stupid costume and helmet. And I'm like, I love it! I love it! And then Dr. Fate's like, I've got a helmet and it's evil or it's good, I know, it's mysterious and we won't explain it in this film. Hopefully you've read a comic or one of those DC movies or whatever. Which I had, so I didn't mind them being vague. Probably shouldn't have been so vague. It's so vague. But I love so many elements of this movie, even though there's a little kid running about on a skateboard and is like, you need to get a catchphrase, Black Adam, a catchphrase! No. Hated that. There were things I hated. Third act, trash, but as I've said many times, DCEU, all their third acts, they're just like, here's a big CGI villain, he's all like, I'm a big demon, you have to punch me in the face, and whatever. But at least in this one, Black Adam literally grabs him and splits his body apart and rips it apart, and then the Rock's all like, and I'm like, okay. It's almost like he's grabbing the old third acts of the DCEU, a big giant CGI monster that appears out of nowhere that you don't care about, and he's ripping it in half, and he's like, I'm symbolically doing this because after this, me and Black Adam, we're gonna change. To be clear, I don't think they're gonna change. I just think that's a fun little symbolism you can put onto this movie if you're trying to explain why it's good to someone who thinks it's bad. But it's good. It's a good movie. It's fun. It's got a lot of really interesting themes about like who is the hero, who isn't, all that kind of stuff. And the third act lets it down. Number 4. This is easily the most controversial, like, spot on my list. I think people are going to... Please don't unsubscribe. I have legitimate reasons, or I might have just lost my mind because this review has gone for far too long. But just hear me out, please. Don't hate me for this. I have legitimate reasons. Or maybe it's just very subjective and I am wrong. So number 4 is... Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. I kind of love this film. It's kind of close to just being number 1. Like, I understand every single flaw in this movie. Every single time I talk to any single person about this film, and they're like, what about A, B, C, D? The joke I'm doing about the alphabet, blah, blah, blah. Oh, explain yourself. Why do you like this film? Why do you like this film? Explain yourself. And I'm just like, I just love how batshit crazy. Batshit. I just love how insane this film is. This film has a mood and an atmosphere and a vibe that is kind of indescribable. It is such an oddity. It is such a film that almost shouldn't and couldn't exist. You have Batman and Superman, the 2 best, most iconic superheroes of all time, that should be honestly, if we're putting Batman and Superman together, you have Henry Cavill and Batfleck as your Batman together in a film. I mean, as someone who loves Batman and Superman that much, it should be my favorite film of all time. Lord of the Rings and Fellowship of the Ring, it was my favorite film. But remember the day where Batman vs. Superman. It should be the best film ever. And to a lot of people, it's the worst film they've ever seen. And just that insane oddity and madness that a film can be so much right, just going off the premise, the idea alone, before you do anything to the script and story. And the script and story is so manic and insane, and so it's trying to do so much. It's trying to be something so unique and different, but it just falls so flat on so many different accounts. But I kind of love it. I understand the flaws and the issues everyone has. I actually don't think they're as strong as people think. I just think that Batman vs. Superman, people love those characters. They want to see a version of them that relates to the version they want to see and thought they would see. Whereas Zack Snyder, he gives us a different take. He gives us a Superman that he loves to snap a neck. He gives a Batman that grabs a bazooka, he kills 1 million people in a car. They love to kill. Zack Snyder, he's a man, he just wants your superheroes to kill everybody. But the soundtrack, the mood, the atmosphere, the lighting, and the feeling of the film, I really do love the soundtrack, even though it's kind of insane and over the top and overly dramatic and we're being moody. Do you feel that moody taste in your bones? I do, and I really enjoy it. There are some really great sequences. I know everybody hates Lex Luthor, but I love his performance. Jesse Eisenberg is just like taking a big swing, and most people say a swing and a miss, but I say a swing and a... He's hit the ball somewhere. I don't know where he's hit the ball, but he hit the ball. I don't know. It's a big swing, and I just love something that's a big swing. I would prefer a big swing over what a lot of this franchise feels like the Wonder Woman film. It's a good film. It just feels like it's exactly what it needs to be, and it doesn't take any big swings. Batman and Superman is just this insane oddity that I feel like there is so much at play and so much to dissect and think about. It just fascinates me. It fascinates me, but also Batfleck and Henry Cavill, or Cavill, depending on when I say it, because I say it wrong or different every time. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just love them so much in their roles as Superman and Batman that I just can't help but love those moments where he's like, it's me, I'm the Batman, do you bleed? You will. I'm like, it's the things I love, but it's live action. Number 3, Zack Snyder's Justice League. It is crazy the fact that we even got this movie at all, but it's kind of wondrous. Like, it's so amazing to see Josstice League brought back into Zack Snyder's Justice League vision, and to see it be the thing mostly that he wanted it to be. And by that I mean 4x3. You don't need to see people's arms extending long into the 16x9 usual realm. We're back to the 90s, baby. 4x3 all the way. That's the only way I want to see my Batman and or Superman together. Oh, you're dressed in black, Superman. I'm also dressed in black. You trying to mimic me? That doesn't really make much sense. I don't feel like you respect me at all as like a superhero. In fact, on your blog, you keep referring to me as a vigilante and a menace to society. Like, yeah, the words you're using, they don't inspire confidence, and I didn't even think we're friends. Superman, are we friends? I mean, the black Superman suit implies we're friends, but I just don't understand why you would put that on. It just, the red and the blue, that suits you. It's like kind of American, but it's also colorful and like it's optimistic. The black, very dour. It's a vigilante look. It's pessimistic. My parents died. I didn't get over it. I just want to punch people in the face. Oh, I'll pick villains so I don't get arrested, but also I'm rich, so I just wouldn't get arrested anyway, so it doesn't really matter who I punch. But we're getting off subject. It just feels like that doesn't make sense for your character right now in the DCEU. Oh, so it's a reference to a comic. It's a reference to a comic and a thing that people love. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Number 2, Man of Steel. This film holds up so well. The soundtrack is so good. It is so bombastically epic and emotional, but so kind of epic and powerful and grand. And it's just, it's just so Superman. Like, it is such a great new Superman theme. There is so much working for this film. I would say the only thing that doesn't work in this film is the color palette. Like, it is too muted. Like, the amount of times you can see, like, a muted version of this Superman and the Superman you see in later films, which is like their color palette and like the color saturation, is disappointing and frustrating. But honestly, once you watch the film and as you're getting through it, that's not something that annoys you during the film. It's just after you go, oh man, oh, imagine if it was actually blue and red and not grey. Zod is great, Superman is great, his mother is great, the cast is great. It's amazing. Highlights of the film, at one point, Zod is like, get all my boys into spaceships and shoot them up into a thingy. And the spaceships look like dicks? What? I also like the first 20 minutes on Krypton, where Superman's dad, played by Russell Crowe, he's like running about being like, Krypton's, it's ruined, it's all gonna be bad, science or whatever, oh, it's bad. But he rides a dragon, and he's like, I've got to get this magical science skull out of this pool. This isn't nonsense insanity. No, it is, Russell Crowe. It's nonsense and insanity, and I love it! The action is really, really strong and powerful and impactful and intense. The final fight has gotten a lot of shit over the years. We're like, oh, he killed 1 billion people because buildings fell down. Sure, whatever. It's really, really great, though. It's a great action sequence. Superman is really well represented. There are just some impossibly great, iconic moments of just like him like put his fist down in the snow, and the snow's all like, and he all like shoots up into the sky, and the music builds and swells, and you're like, that song Fly, it's just too good. And I love that bit where Russell Crowe's like, Amy Adams, the girl who likes my son, I'm a robot zombie computer generated something or other, and he's all like, go down this way, oh no, go down this way. And it's kind of weird, but I just like it. It's a good film. It's a very, very good film, and people hate it, but I don't. I like it. Number 1, The Suicide Squad. So if you're in doubt of trying to remake / reboot / do a sequel, but it's kind of a reboot / a remake, and you're not really sure what it is, because some characters are from the first film, but some aren't, and you're like, is this in the same continuity? Because there are so many that make it feel like this is a sequel, but it feels like a reboot, and then it's remade, and you don't know what to call it. Just call it the same thing, but add the anti-Facebook thing. If you're not clear what that is, watch The Social Network, and they're all like, oh, the Facebook should be more like Facebook. And that's what this film did, but the opposite. It added the, and that made it good. That's not why it's good. James Gunn is just a good writer and a good like storyteller, and David Ayer is a man who is allowed to make films. Yeah, it's great. I don't know, Killer Shark and the other characters, and there's a rat character, and she's like, rats are the chosen ones, and she's all like, it's a metaphor, do you get it? Rats, they swarm on the big evil starfish, and they kill him, and it's like disgusting things that are mistreated and pushed aside, much like the criminals of the Justice, the criminals or whatever, they're pushed to the side like rats, but maybe they'll all crawl up on a big starfish and stab it and it'll die and they'll save the world or something. I might have missed the metaphor of the film. It's a good film though. I love it, and it's the only bad thing is Jared Leto, everyone's favorite actor and Joker, is not in the film. Obviously, that's so how could it be number 1? Why didn't even put it number 1? Because he's not in it, and he's so good. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I'd love to know what everyone thought of the DCEU in general, or to comment on every film. Give me your list. Your list. Give me your list.